Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name again is Jeffrey Davis, and we continue to stream stories of entrepreneurship, leadership, and all those things that affect your business. And, we have always had a relationship with the law firm L&A Law, Lando Anastasi. And that means we were talking to Tom McNulty about IP and AI. Welcome back, Tom.
Hi, good to be back.
Thank you very much. Hot field you're in. Always something happening. There's a subject every day. What's on the agenda for today?
Well, today, I thought we'd talk about the sort of blossoming of artificial intelligence and how the use of artificial intelligence in your business may or may not affect your ability to protect your information, to protect your patentable subject matter, your copyrightable subject matter, how that sort of all plays out. And I guess the first thing to say is anything that is purely created by artificial intelligence in the United States is not subject to either copyright or patent protection. There have been test cases on both sides of things. There's a gentleman who created an artificial intelligence program and filed patent applications in the name of the program itself, both in the United States and around the world. Was fairly routinely refused even consideration because there was no human inventor. Pretty much everywhere except South Africa. South Africa gave him a patent, but their examination system is pretty cursory. So it's hard to say that they made a conscious decision that was acceptable, or if they just rubber stamped it like they tend to do. And the same with copyright protection. Purely AI generated works have been almost routinely rejected for copyright protection in the world, with the exception of the United Kingdom. They actually will give protection to the person that entered the prompts, the person that caused the software to create the work. It gets a little bit shorter amount of time than a human generated one, but they're the only country that I'm aware of, at least at present, that is allowing any of this type of protection for intellectual property generated by an AI. The interesting thing with these things is, what do you do when you've got to work, something copyrightable, something patentable that's sort of a blend of human and AI contribution, and that's going to be that's going to be the area of interest, I think, over the next several years. I know in the copyright side of things, there was a woman who wrote a comic book and used a program called Midjourney to illustrate it. And Midjourney is an artificial intelligence program that you put in prompts, and it goes through this whole sort of rigorous procedure of its own. The output is unpredictable. If you put the same prompt in today and tomorrow, you might get completely different results. You might get something very similar, but it's unpredictable. This woman apparently spent considerable amount of time and effort refining prompts and refining, choosing pictures and having the program refine it. And she filed for copyright protection without mentioning the use of Midjourney. And after she had been granted it, she went public on social media about how she had gotten the first copyright protection on AI generated stuff. And the Copyright Office yanked it back promptly. And after doing a sort of a more thorough analysis based on the information then available to it, it decided that she had written the text, she had selected the pictures and arranged them, and chosen the order and all that. So she was granted copyright protection for the comic book per se, but that she had no copyright protection over the individual images, because she didn't, while she was refining the prompts and things like that, she wasn't actually in playing with the images themselves. She was, feeding input in, and whatever came out ultimately that she selected was something that she didn't have her own personal hands in. So they, like I say, they took the protection away for the individual images. Those are now public domain. Anyone's free to copy them, do what they want with them. So I thought it was sort of an interesting case, both in that the Copyright Office would go ahead and take it back. And also in their analysis, their analysis was not that there's a per se inability to get protection on something that's AI generated, but it really is that there has to be human involvement in the final look of the image itself, and not just in the prompts that go in, but not having their hands directly on the image that comes out. And of course,
It does remind me of the expression "dust you say too much." She should have been away. But let me ask you it just a little bit. It sort of reminds me of my wife when she does recipes. She'll go online and look at a lot of cookbooks, and then after she's looked at a lot of cookbooks, other people's recipes, she then adapts it for herself. So
Sure.
whose recipe really was it? Isn't it somewhat similar to that?
I mean, it is definitely somewhat similar to that. Actually, just touching back on your comment, the Copyright Office and the Patent Office are taking the position that you are obliged to notify them of the use of AI when you file something that involves it.
Sounds
So
logical.
I want to be clear. I'm not advocating you sort of keep your mouth shut to the offices.
I'm sorry for the tongue-in-cheek comment.
Well, it's the first thing that probably occurred to all of us. If she hadn't posted, nobody would have known it.
Very, very often I will say to clients, I'm not sure you have to really bring this whole subject up. But it's not about AI. I must be clear.
Yeah. No, but like I say, they're taking the position that you have to notify them, and then they'll do the analysis. Couple other areas of importance if you've got a business that you're allowing people to use artificial intelligence in is a number of AI systems have been sued by various groups and collectives based on the idea that feeding the information into the AI to train it is a copyright infringement. I know Sarah Silverman got a coalition of comics and people like that and filed suit fairly recently, and I'm aware of several others. None of them have progressed far enough to know what the courts are going to do with that. And I don't really have an opinion, that perhaps is fair use. It's perhaps not infringing at all because you're not necessarily making a copy. But it does raise the concern of what if you're using AI for something and the output is too close to something that it was trained on? Can you be liable for copyright infringement? And I think the answer there is almost certainly yes. If you then take that output and put it on your website, sell the books or posters or you're at that point you're actually making copies, and you may well be subject to infringement. And one of the key things in copyright infringement is you have to show that somebody actually had access to and copied the work. And if you're using AI that's been trained on basically scraping the entirety of the internet, it's going to be really hard to prove that you didn't have access, at least through the AI.
Well, you're making my brain run around, and I'm a lay person, so I apologize first. But they always say there's like only 4 or 5 original ideas in the world. And I'm just wondering 5 years from now, when when AI is so much more prolific, will it almost be impossible to come up with an original idea?
I certainly, if you look at Hollywood these days, it seems like it already is impossible to come up with an original idea. But yeah, I think that is a big concern, and that's one of the reasons why I personally don't think IP protection should be granted to AI generated stuff. If you wanted to, you could use an AI program very simply and very quickly to basically render the Eiffel Tower in every conceivable lighting condition, weather condition, angle. You could do that fairly trivially. It would be a matter of days before you've arguably created every possible image of the Eiffel Tower. Would that then give you the right to exclude anyone from ever, creating an image, a painting, whatever?
And I just saw this morning that a political candidate has an AI ad out there that has recreated a competitive candidate speaking and acting that never happened.
Oh yeah, the deep fake issue is a whole other issue of its own. I know I've heard people have used AI to create, for example, like a late era Beatles song using Paul McCartney's 1965 voice. And it does sound noticeably different. And the real question there is there it's probably copyright infringement because it's still a Beatles song that you're doing. But if you wrote your own song and used AI to have Paul McCartney's voice implanted into your song, I'm not sure right at the moment that that's some kind of some kind of a tort or some kind of an infringement. It's a very gray area that's going to have to be fleshed out and perhaps new statutes developed. And then sort of
we really are headed to uncharted new territory.
Yeah, I mean, the writers and the actors guilds are on strike right now, and the Actors Guild, one of their main points is that they don't want AI to basically start deep faking themselves into movies that they themselves didn't act in. And I think for the major stars, it's probably less of an issue, but for the bit players, they don't really have any negotiating authority or power. They basically, if they get offered an agreement that gives the companies the right to do that, they kind of have to take it. So it is kind of a big concern for them. It's certainly been a big concern expressed by various authors groups and various artists groups. This is potentially going to squeeze a lot of people out of business if something isn't done.
Wow, this is all so exciting, and that's why we love having you on these segments. I will tell our listeners that both Tom and myself are real. These are not AI versions. They wouldn't be so flawed, at least on my part, if they were AI. But Tom, clearly this whole area is an particular interest to entrepreneurs. And if someone wants to get hold of you, learn more about it, make sure that they are protected properly, how would they find you?
They can reach me at tmcnulty@lalaw.com. Our website is www.lalaw.com. They can find me and everyone else at my firm there. Or you can reach me at 617-395-7040.
And as your logo says, with L&A Law, it's a better IP, better world. We're going to have segments with you throughout the year, and we're looking forward to having you back. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs.